record,
I got it.
record iCloud. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Copabe Play Ball. Another great episode, and want to thank all of you joining us. It is going to be a great show. And get this, we are heading to the beautiful island of Aruba. Yes, I've been there several times. Gorgeous. If you've never been there, take a trip there, take a vacation, go watch some baseball. And we're going to talk to a top person in Aruba baseball, because you've seen there's a lot of great players coming out of Aruba. We know Bogarts, and he's just one of them. We may talk about him a little bit and also some others. Again, I want to welcome our guest, Randolph Oduber. Randolph, let me tell you, he is the WBSC Athletes Commission. So he's on their commission. He's going to talk about that. Played pro ball in the States. Interesting. He played with the Netherlands national team with the WBSC, the Olympic qualifier, was drafted by the San Francisco Giants. He didn't sign then. He went with the Nationals, went to Western Oklahoma State College. He was drafted in the 32nd round. He's got a great baseball background, great person. Got a chance recently to meet him for my very first time at the WBSC U23 World Championships. So let me welcome Randolph to the show. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Peter? How are you doing? And thank you for inviting me to your show. I mean, it's a great show, great podcast, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Well, I know Copabe's thrilled to have you, because you know another Copabe athlete making it big time. You're young and you've done a lot in the game, and I think Copabe and the countries in Copabe need to even learn more about you. We got a lot of great baseball people in Aruba, obviously. I want to mention our good friend King, the King, right? Eugene Kingsale. Everybody knows him. He's been on my show before. We'll get him on this podcast with Copabe. But, interesting enough, in Aruba, it's such a small island, but I remember 20, 30 years ago being there also, a lot of great young players. In those days, when I went there, Randolph, I mean, the baseball fields were all just pretty much dirt fields. People are just building them, just starting off. But there was a lot of talent. So let's do this. Talk about how you grew up in Aruba, how baseball started a little bit. And things you did when you were a young kid. I mean, and we could talk about the transformation of where it's, where it is now, developing major league players too.
All right, sounds good. Let's start. I mean, I was born and raised in Aruba, and since I was, I think, 4 years old, little guy, little boy, jumping everywhere, parents decided to put me into baseball. And unfortunately, I mean, that's the only sport I ever played. I tried football. I didn't really like it. Soccer, we call it football here, which is soccer. And I didn't really like it. So I stick with baseball. And I mean, I played baseball my whole life. And growing up, like you said, Peter, our fields were dirt. And so, you learn how to catch ground balls on the dirt with the balls bouncing everywhere. So it was fun. So that's what helps us being good fielders and all that. Right now, of course, you have a couple of turf fields down here in Aruba, which makes it better. But let's go back into my early career. I played in Aruba, went to school in Aruba till I was 18. Before that, I did different tryouts, but I never really clicked to get to sign. And I knew I had a good potential to sign, but the offer wasn't there. So, and my parents always pushed me, we want you to finish your high school. Finish your high school. After you get done with high school, hey, you're free to decide what you want to do. So, I want to finish my high school. And I knew my parents always told me, hey, your education is really important. You never know, baseball whatever can happen one day. And if you have your education, you're in the safe side. So, I finished my high school and I didn't really get a good deal to sign with. I remember doing different tryouts, different teams, but the deal wasn't there. So I was glad that I got a college. I went to tryouts in Curacao. I remember I went to tryouts in Curacao. And then, I got a good offer to go to Western Oklahoma State College. And, you know, going to Oklahoma, it was a big step for me at that time.
I bet.
I didn't know where Oklahoma even was. Coming from Aruba, and I'm used to beaches, used to warm weather the year around. But I had a mission, I had a goal. And my goal was go play baseball, go finish my education, and I wanted to sign professional. I want to be like Andrew Jones back then, or Jim King Seal. You know, I want to be like them. And when I got to the college, I was like, oh, this is not a college that you see on TV. You big college, big dorms, big fields. No, it was a small town in Altus, Oklahoma. And I'm telling you, one of the best programs I ever been. It was great. And everything was right there, you know, walking distance to everywhere. And the coach is, until today, is like a dad to me. And we were together with Andrelton Simmons, went to that school too. And, you know, we grew up together at that college. And it was great experience. You know, again, coming from Aruba, I had to deal with the weather. That was one of the toughest things for me, the cold weather and the snow. And, you know, today rains, tomorrow is hot. I had to get used to that weather.
Oh, yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun, though. And for sure, after the first year, I got drafted with the Giants. And it was, I think, 40-something round. And again, it wasn't the deal I really wanted. And I decided to go back to the second year to college, and then got signed again. You know, I was grateful to get drafted again, and with the Washington Nationals, and I did sign with OSU, Oklahoma State University. I had a full ride with them, but I decided to go play pro ball after that. So.
All right, folks that are joining us on Facebook, if you have any questions, listen, Randolph got a great baseball background, and we're talking to him about Aruba baseball, born in Aruba. And Randolph, you know, interesting, you always learn something. That's why I love these podcasts, because, you know, you listen to the guests, even though we've talked in Mexico quite a bit, you listen to the guests and they always bring up something interesting. You know, one, didn't know that Simmons played with you over there at the college. You know, we're seeing now Simmons in the big leagues. He's a free agent, you know, a great shortstop, great outfield. I mean, this guy could play everywhere, a great personality like you. I've noticed a lot of players, actually people in the Caribbeans and Latin America, they got some great personalities, always smiling, always, having fun with the game. Well, one thing I want our audience to know is when you were a young kid playing in Aruba, you were talking about, you know, yeah, the fields were not that great. At that time, did you guys play a lot of games, and how have things changed when you were a kid then compared to now? We know the fields have changed because obviously you upgraded a lot of the fields, but what else has changed for young kids there? Because I want to figure out some of the things that happened back then and now, and why islands like, you know, Aruba are developing some very good athletes, not just at the big league level, but college, high school, coming to the States. There's quite a few players. Why do you think that's happening, you know, right now?
I think back then, like when I was young and before that, one of the big part of now was the facilities. Back then, we used to practice 2 times a week and play 2 times a week. You know, and that was it. Back then, we didn't have any cages or machine or, you know, those little equipments that you can practice more. We didn't have like a lot of ground balls where you go practice maybe an hour or two on Tuesday and Thursday, and then you play Saturday, Sunday, and you're done.
Yeah.
You know, and the extra work is like at home with a tennis ball, hitting the ball to the wall, catching ground balls, throwing. That was what I did.
Yeah.
And the guys I know back then did the same thing, because we didn't have like a baseball cage.
Did
Like
you
right
guys
now,
go out? Did you guys go out and play on your own like we used to when we were kids here in
yes.
the States?
Yeah, we play a lot on the street or play, go early to the field and, play on ourselves. Um, and now we have more facilities, more cages that the guys can work out from Monday till Sunday, and you have more things going. And back then it wasn't like that, but we still, I think back then we were hungry. We wanted to get there, and being hungry, we make us go outside and go do something, figure
Yeah.
something else, figure something to do with what we have. Maybe if we don't have a ball, we'll make something up. Doesn't matter. We'll make something up. So I think that was a good thing about back then.
Yep.
And now you have more equipments, more coaches, more experienced coaches as well. More guys that been through the game and now they're giving back, like Eugene Kinsale,
Yeah.
been through the league. He's been playing the big leagues and now he's giving back to the community. Back then we didn't have much of that. And like me, myself, when I went to college, I didn't have someone to tell me what to expect at the college.
Yeah. Now you do.
Now I'm the one giving advices.
Yeah.
Hey, make sure you have this, make sure you do that, or the way they have to think. Back then I didn't have that. And now,
yeah. And that's so important because, as you mentioned earlier, I just want to mention this too and stress to all the kids out there that might be listening to the show. Your parents told you, hey, you got to get your education in first and make sure you go through high school because they knew if you were going to go to college in the US, that was a possibility that you better be educated. You better have that background because without that, you can't just fall back on baseball.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a person that really believe in education because again, we don't want someone to get injured, but every inning, every ball that got pitched or hit, something can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You can break up a bone, whatever, and you're not going to be playing anymore. And your education, nobody can take that education away from you. If you finish your high school, you finish your college, your degree, nobody can take it out from you. Nobody. That's yours to take. And you do what you did. Baseball on the other side, we all want to make it to major league. Of course, who doesn't? I played to make the major league. I didn't, but I have my education that I can fall right now to it. So I think it's really important.
Let me ask you this, because that's interesting also. Back then, when you were young, you didn't have players who had made it to the big leagues or even maybe professional ball or even college baseball. You didn't have that to look at. How did you come up with the idea yourself? Did you just say to yourself when you were younger, hey, I want to go play in the States? Because you really didn't have the other guys to look at that made it.
I think it had to do a lot with some guys knowing what was going on. Like Eugene Kinsey was in the big league, so he had some friends, maybe, for example, that can come up and, hey, we have, this kind of thing going on. Or I remember we have one coach, Milton Cruz. He was a scout and he played ball too. And he had a lot of connections. And he helped me a lot with tryouts too back then. Going to Curacao, making sure, back then maybe one or two schools will come. And that's how pretty much we did it back then. Now we have more people, of course.
What athletic skills do you think helped you propel to the level that you went to? And we're going to get to the level of professional baseball and also the national team. What athletic skills or maybe mental skills, what helped you progress?
I think one of them was my mental. My mentality was really strong. I always wanted to reach the highest level I can reach. And I used to be quick. So I used to be a 6'4" runner, not anymore. Back then.
Well, that helps.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest weapons, that I was quick. So that was good. I always could have hit. So that's good. So that helped me a lot.
Randolph, you mentioned the mental part. I think that's important too. How did you you were mentally strong, it sounded like. How did you deal with the failures? Because I'm sure everything wasn't a success. I mean, even when you got to the States in college, like you said, I've never, it's a new country to you. It's a new place. It's a university you never been to. You didn't know
Mhm.
anybody. I mean, how did you deal with that make mental part to kind of deal with the failure aspect sometimes?
I think it started in Aruba before even go to the state. I already started where I want to be,
Ah,
what I want to achieve in life, and all that. So I knew I want to go to the state, and if I go to the state, doesn't matter where I go, what college I do go, I'm gonna give 110%. If I don't make it to the major league, I know I'm gonna make it in life or education wise. I know I'm gonna finish my school. And going to Oklahoma, it wasn't like the best place because it was different from Aruba, and I couldn't make the decision, I don't want to be here. I'm going to go back. But then what's my goal? Where I want to be and what I have to do to get there. And I think that helped a lot to having the right people in my life to help to guide me going through every situation, because I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of injuries, going up and then hit the injury and hit me back. I had to stand up again.
sure.
So, and I've been through a lot of injuries. And until today, I think and I believe that's one of the main reasons I didn't make it to the big leagues. It was, a lot of injuries. But I feel like, all those things happened that today I can be able to give back to how I as a person deal with all those situations.
Well, what's amazing is, yeah, okay, you didn't make it to the big leagues, but man, I mean, to a lot of young kids in Aruba, you are a big league guy. I mean, think about, one, you played for the national team, the World Baseball Classic. I mean, they'll talk about a lot of big leaguers there. I remember seeing the Netherlands team, I mean, loaded with big league players, managed by Hensley Newlands, a big league, by the way, should be a big league manager, in my opinion. But, explain to our audience, because what's interesting is you're in Aruba, but you play for the Netherlands national team. So explain to our audience how that works, because there may be some people out there that really don't, they don't know the system. Explain how that works and what that experience was like for you when you first made the national team.
Well, first of all, I mean, Aruba, you have Curacao, Bonaire, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, I think a couple more, but we are all part of the Netherlands. So the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us, we have Dutch passport. So we are available to play under the flag of the Netherlands. So that's how it came together that I can represent the Netherlands. When I was young, I did play for Aruba.
Okay.
But when I signed professional and all those big tournaments came up, I played for the Netherlands. So because we have Dutch passport, we are available to play for the Netherlands.
And one of the reasons a lot of guys go to colleges in the Netherlands, they go to university in the Netherlands, right? Because are there universities in Aruba?
There right now there is, but I mean, of course, it's better to go to the Netherlands where bigger universities, much more options, depending what degree you want to go to, what you want to study, and it's a good experience for you as a student to go and live on yourself and learn how to take care of yourself beside just studying. So having a new experience in life.
And what's interesting too is another thing that's a life experience that's going to help you tremendously, help a lot of young people in Aruba, is you're multilingual. I mean, not only English, but talk about all the languages.
Yeah, we speak, our Papiamento is our nature language. That's a mixture of like Spanish, Dutch, English, a little French. And we speak Spanish, we speak Dutch, and
Wow.
English. Our school system are in Dutch. So everything is in Dutch. And beside that, you have your English classes, you have your Spanish classes. Now you do have Papiamento classes too, but Papiamento we speak on the street or at home.
Folks, we're going to talk to Randolph about it. Not only has he propelled in baseball, because he's played in independent ball with the Lincoln Salt Dogs, Fargo Red Hawks, which I know well because I was in the Northern League when they were there. Bologna, Italy, but also serves on, we're going to talk about this towards the end, serves on a WBSC Athletes Commission. So, I mean, highly regarded in the WBSC, the World Baseball Softball Confederation, which is the governing body of the sport worldwide. And COPABE is the governing body in Latin America, North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean. So, I mean, obviously going to a high level. Before we get to all that, Randolph, because there's a lot of interesting things here. You now make the national team, right? I mean, I think you made it as a younger player, or did you make it only as an older player?
No, as a younger, not younger, but 2013 was the classic, right? Baseball classic.
Yes.
I think that was my first time making the team, 2013.
Talk about that experience, because here you have 2013. Who's the manager? Some of the players. I know you were a very good player, but that could also be a little intimidating with some of those guys that were involved, with the team.
Yes, I mean, when I'm going to go back for a little bit. In college, I already got to know that Netherlands is playing tournaments and this and that. The Olympic, they went to the Olympics, the baseball classic in 2006, I think. So I already knew, hey, I want to make it too. That's another option, And I went to college, signed professionals. And I think 2011, there was a World Cup in Panama.
Mm-hmm.
And the Netherlands won it. And I was supposed to go to that tournament, but I got injured. I got injured that year when I was with Washington. So Washington told me, hey, you know what? We're not going to let you go. We prefer to keep it safe. And you have a full off season to recover.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad. I was pissed off. I want to play.
Sure.
But today I can see, okay, I can understand the decisions. And then we had 2013, I got invited to the camp. So, you have preparation and all that. So, I worked as hard as I can because I know I had the ability to make the team. And then, thank God I made it. And Bam Bam Meulens was the manager. And you had Simmons, you had Sander Bogart, you had Jonathan Scope, Coco Valentin, you name it, and we had a good team. And I was there young. I was 23rd, I think, years old. So wow. I was really young, and I made a team. I mean, it was one of the pretty much the first tournament that I played that with 1,000 fans. So you can imagine the nerve was like up here.
Where was that held?
Sorry, it started in Japan or Taiwan, something like that.
Right.
Either one of those countries, Korea, Taiwan, Japan. But I mean, the experience behind that, oh, wow. Make it a major league is one thing. Make it to play in the baseball classic, side to side with top athletes that are in the major leagues, or like playing in the major leagues, and having that experience for me was a blessing. And being able to play in 2013 and 2017 baseball classic was like, it was great. It was great having and being able to be in the Netherlands team.
What were some of the takeaways? I mean, when you're dealing with guys like Hensley Meulens, which is an outstanding manager, outstanding individual, what a role model. When you go through all these players, whether it be Bogart, Scope, Simmons, I mean, we're talking about at one time, you guys had 5 shortstops playing in the starting lineup. One was in center, you had second, third, and short. Those were all shortstops. I mean, guys that played in the big leagues. What were some of the things you learned from them as a player?
As a player, I remember Andrew Jones was on the team too.
Yeah.
It was like I was
Hall
like,
of Famer.
I'm playing with Andrew Jones. Someone that I used to watch on TV, and now I'm side to side to him. And I think he's one of the guys that I ask a lot of questions, especially in the outfield, since I am an outfielder. And the way he thinks, how he prepare himself before and during the game, and same as the other guys, Simmons and all those guys, how they think. The game is mental. How do you prepare yourself mentally and getting to know the game, getting to know the players who you're facing, where to play, how to prepare yourself mentally. And I think that's one of the most important thing that I learned is like, how do you prepare yourself? It's not just go to the field and play. There's a lot behind it. And the way you prepare yourself is really important. Knowing again knowing who you're playing with and where you have to play and all those little things that are really important.
What takeaways? It's amazing. You take all this experience of yours. Now we're going to talk about this, folks. We're going to talk about what Randolph's doing in Aruba with baseball there, with his foundation, because be able to take all these experiences and give them to young people like some of these guys did with you is really giving back to the game. But before we do, I want to tell you about Andrew Jones. Interesting, with the World Baseball Classic, I was working as a technical commissioner, and he was on the field, and we were in Tokyo, if I remember right. He was on the field. He was walking the field. It was AstroTurf. He was checking the turf out, right? And he didn't really know me. I mean, because of Hensley, he introduced me to him. He was really nice, and he was looking at the turf, and he said to me, "See that right there? That's going to be a problem during the game. We got to make sure because that could take a bad hop, right?" Yes. So, okay. So I said, well, yeah, really, that's interesting. There was nothing really bad. It was just he knew how the turf was laid out. During the game, I'm sitting pretty close to the Netherlands dugout, and I thought this was very interesting. Well, what happens is, I don't remember the inning. There's a ground ball, and it does take a tricky hop. He turned around, he looked at me, and he winked, like, say, "I told you so." Yeah. That's how detailed that gentleman was. This guy's a Hall of Famer, but he wasn't just a player. He understood the game really well.
Yeah, that's how he is. I remember, can't remember which game it was, but we had to walk the outfield, and he will throw balls to the wall just to see how the ball is going to bounce back from the wall. It might be like a little place that the wall is different and the ball is going to bounce different. So, getting ready mentality to know if the ball bounces there, what's going to happen. So nothing will surprise him during the game because he already prepared himself knowing what's going to happen if the ball hits, depending where. And I remember one game we're playing, I think it was in Taiwan. I remember it was a lefty hitter. I was playing a little bit too much on the pull side for lefty. I remember him calling me and moving me to the left. And he moved me exactly where the fly ball was hit.
Wow.
When I got to the dugout, he came up to me. I was like, "Hey, just listen, man. This is Andrew Jones." I was like, "You're right."
Love it.
It's funny, but that's how he thinks. And he knows, he reads hitter, how he reads swings. And, it's important. It's important. And again, it's important to give back all those little details to the younger kids.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, take us through now, because I think this is interesting. You took us through your college, when you first initially got there, and now you started playing in Oklahoma, Western Oklahoma State College. But take us now when you were drafted, because, that's another experience. All of a sudden you're drafted, and now you signed, and you've got to go, with the Nationals, you go into spring training. Talk about that experience for the first time. What was that like?
I mean, getting drafted was an honor. I mean, it's not easy, especially like coming from Aruba. You have to prove yourself. Nobody knows you. The scouts maybe don't know you. You don't have like a track record that from high school they can track you and see how you progress. You don't have that. We go there and you have to prove yourself right away who you are. Mm-hmm. And being able to getting drafted first and second year for me was an honor. And getting drafted, going to Washington, it was a dream come true. You work all those years to make it. And coming from Aruba, we didn't have much players getting drafted because back then, we didn't go to college as much. And then I got drafted. I was really happy. Of course, you sign professional. And going to Washington again, I didn't have anybody to really tell me what to expect. So I got a phone call to congratulate me. I think it was a couple weeks later that I'm getting drafted. And they asked me if I want to sign and all this and all, all those business side. And we got to agreement and I signed. And I remember I was going to play summer ball in North Carolina, and I was there already.
Ah,
And they called me, Washington called me and was like, yeah, you got to fly in tomorrow. I was like, oh, I got to go pack. So I packed, I went there, I got to Washington to Florida. Back then they were in Vieira, Florida.
mm-hmm.
So I got to the clubhouse. I mean, Peter, everything was new to me because I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what to expect. Zero. And
You knew the weather was good, so that was a positive.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to Florida. So I know the weather was good. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be warm. But, so it was something new for me. And getting to the clubhouse and seeing all those players, I was like, it's not easy. It's going to be tough. And seeing how everything works professional wise and dealing with different characters, every year is a new year. But my first year, I was on a mission. Back then, my first year, I wanted to make it the major league my first year. But of course, it's not possible. And, I was working out like I was in college.
Mm.
And they had to slow me down. I had to learn to slow down.
Long season.
Yes, it's a long season. It's like 100, back then it's 142 games in minor league.
Was that the hardest adjustment to make? Were there other adjustments that were difficult?
One of them was slowing down my work because, in college, you want to go ahead and hit 200 balls off the tee every day. In professional, it's not possible because you're not going to last a whole season. And I remember them having a meeting with me to slow me down. And back then, of course, I'm not going to believe it because the only thing I know is like hard work, and I had to slow down. And my first year was awesome. I played GCL, hit 350 something, and I got moved up to low A. And the last couple of weeks in low A, I couldn't swing a bat. I was tired. It was a long year for me already, playing college, getting drafted, go play rookie, and go play low A. So the last couple of weeks, I was pretty tired. And I struggled my couple of weeks, but that year was great. So getting used from college going to professional was a great experience. Again, something new. And then we went to Aruba and get ready for the next year.
Man, you have so much experience. It's interesting because, like you said, you go back to Aruba working with young kids, and all of a sudden you've got kids going to high school, to college, pro. You can really help them prepare so well because that is a tough adjustment for anybody that's coming from another country, going to the U.S. Luckily, you spoke English. Luckily, you speak Spanish. You got a lot of different languages that you speak. Folks, just so you know, if you're on Facebook Live or if you're on YouTube, I may be looking down. I'm not being rude because I was taught real well by my parents. When you're talking to somebody, make sure you always look at them. It's a very important thing to me. But I do look down on a Facebook page because we have some questions. And folks, all you have to do, I know there's people that want to ask some questions, just type them in the comments section, the questions, and I will ask Randolph those questions. Hey, Randolph, I want to talk a little bit about your experience with the WBSC because, I think it's a great honor for a young man. I call you young because of my age, but for a young man with your experience to be on the Athletes Commission. Talk about how that came about and the importance of this commission that was developed by the WBSC.
I mean, it's funny how it all started. I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was 2018. I was playing indie ball. I was with the Lincoln Salt Dogs. And, we are on the national team too, Netherlands and all that. And we received an email and saying that WBSC is looking for athletes representative and all this. But at first, I didn't really care. I was like, I'm playing baseball. Why do I want to be representative if I'm playing baseball? And I remember they were sending emails reminding us, hey, if you're interested, please fill out this form, send this email. You got to make a letter. So I was like, I asked my sister, I was like, hey, can you make me a letter saying this, like why I want to do this? Just a letter. And I decided, I'm going to send it in. And I was playing indie ball. I mean, I didn't really care anymore. And then I received a mail or a phone call. I was like, hey, from the Netherlands, hey, you made it. They choose you to be the athlete's representative. I was like, okay, great. I was like, so
Nice.
what do I do? Yeah, what do I have to do now? I don't know, because I'm still playing, and then WSC contacted me. I think it was 2019, they chose me, and we had that conference in Japan. It was 2019 or 2018. Was one of those years that it was Premier 12.
Yes.
I didn't go because I was injured. I didn't go. I didn't go, and we had a conference, big WSC conference, and that was my first one. First conference as an athlete representative, and it's full voluntary. And one of the questions I get is like, "Hey, they don't pay you." It's like, you know what? It's not about being paid for me. It's about the connections you get with those people and getting to travel the world doing what I love. Sometimes you gotta give to get some.
Absolutely.
And I really believe in that. And having this opportunity to meeting people and being able to represent athletes is a great honor for me. And how it started and where I am right now, I can't complain.
What's the main goal of the Athletes Commission?
Yeah, our main goal is represent athletes, making sure they are well treated while they are at a tournament. If something happened to a player, they can contact me directly. If they're not comfortable contacting maybe the manager or someone else in the WSC, they can contact me directly, and I can make sure this issue go to the board so they know what is going on. And I can press, hey, let's do this better, or we have an issue with a player and let's make sure we take care of it.
And folks, we're going to put on the Copabe Play Ball podcast website, we will put Randolph's information, his email there, so you can contact him. Hey, listen, I got to ask you this. I got a question that I'm going to ask from the audience on Facebook in a minute. But I got to ask you this one because you mentioned injuries about 1 million times. So since you mentioned it 1 million times, this is good for the young players out there and coaches.
Yes.
One, you talk about the mental part. You dealt with the injuries because, mentally you were pretty good and pretty strong, and you had a goal in mind, so you persevered. But let's talk about what could you have done better to prevent some of these injuries, and what advice you might have with young players, because, I understand injuries could happen, but we're trying to prevent them. So sometimes we have to do some work to prevent them. A lot of times what happens, Randolph, this, somebody gets hurt, an example, Tommy John surgery, right? They get hurt. Now they got to work really hard for a year. Really hard to come back. They could have put that work a lot sooner and maybe reduce the ability of getting an injury. So talk about that, how you handled it.
Well, the way I handle it, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Going back to my injuries, I'm gonna just be quick on that. Pulled my hamstring like 5 times.
Wow.
I had hamate surgery. I broke the bone right in the hand. I broke it, so I had the surgery. I broke my ankle. I had to do I think my groin once. So, but mostly it was my hamstrings. So I really had problems with hamstrings. And then one of the important thing is listen to your body. Listen what your body tells you. And I feel back then I was afraid of telling coaches if I was hurting, because one thing is like if you're hurting, one thing is sore. And back then, coaches like, now if you're hurting, you gotta push through it.
Hmm.
I understand the part of, you gotta push as hard as you can, but again, you have the difference between pain and sore. And we have to teach our young guys, making sure they tell their coaches what they are feeling, and making sure they know the coaches are not going to put them aside because of that, because you have that in professional ball, that I was worried about. If I sit one day out, somebody else will play in front of me and hit. For example, if he goes 3 for 3 tomorrow, he might get a chance to play again. And if I'm feeling good tomorrow, I'm not going to be playing, because yesterday I was hurt. He got a chance to play. He played better, and he got a chance to play again.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all those things in mind that you want to push through it. And then sometimes it's better to sit maybe 3 days instead of sitting 4 months. And that's when it comes down to making sure players know that, hey, this is why we are telling you to take a rest, and listen to your body, knowing how far you can go. And if something's hurting, take care of it. It's really important.
Yeah, those are great points. I love that part because, nowadays, it's important to manager, coaches communicate with the players what you
Yes.
just said, because if the players don't understand that, they're going to be fearful. And folks, we know the most famous story about that, I think, was Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig. If I remember the name, if I got the name right, Wally Pipp, remember, sat down, and then Lou Gehrig's career started, and he never stopped. Hey, let's take a question here, Randolph. We're almost to the end, but let's take a question from Antonio Rangel. He said, excuse me, sir, Randolph, what's the biggest achievement you received in your life through baseball? So the biggest achievement.
My biggest achievement, I think, first of all, having the honor to live my dream, and being able to play with players that I never thought I was being able to play. And one of my best tournaments was Premier 12, 2015, where I was best outfielder, more stolen bases, and one of the best hitters, top hitters. And those were one of my biggest achievements, playing the Classic, and now being able to give back, helping others.
And speaking about giving back, there's no doubt about it, you reached some great achievements. Speaking about giving back, you started a foundation, the Thrive Foundation in Aruba. And folks, we're going to put that information up because you can help with the Thrive Foundation. Randolph, tell us about why you started a foundation and what it's all about.
Well, the reason why I started, I always wanted to give back. I always wanted to give back to my community of Aruba, knowing what their needs is. And I always want to give back in sport and education. For me too, they are big part of Aruba is our education and sports. And I want to make sure to help athletes and non-athletes in education to succeed and make their dream come true. And we currently are working on representing players or helping players go into the States. Right now, we have one player who we sent this year. He went to Western Oklahoma State College. We helped him to get a scholarship. So one of the main reasons is helping players and making sure to help them having the mentality, the right mentality, how to compete, how to have a strong mentality. And we are focusing on giving like speeches at schools and making sure we give our our you know, how to have the mentality to succeed in life. Either if you succeed in the athlete's form or just a degree. And now we want to also give back to our coaches, because if we teach our athletes but we don't teach our coaches, we're like going up and down a little bit, you know. And we're working on a coaching seminary this coming January. Let's hope we can get the sponsor and, you know, all that, so we can get that going for helping the coaches as well. But our foundations mainly focus on education and sport.
Awesome. And Randolph, well, you read my mind, because one of the things I was going to ask you, that's great stuff you guys are doing. And hope folks that go to the website can help out, whether it be a donation or whether helping find sponsors. But talk to Copabe countries, talk to countries all over the world, people involved in the game of baseball. I want to kind of finish it off with this, because I think it's so important. Talk about developing these young players. I'm talking about the real young kids. The key factors, you mentioned one of them, it's probably the biggest one, that's coaching. Talk about how important that is and why.
Yeah, I think coaching is really important. And the other thing is important for me is communication. Talk with your players. I know sometimes it's hard because maybe you have 2 or 3 hours, but if you can maybe talk with one player today, you don't know what difference you can make with that 15 minutes that you talk with that kid, you know. And maybe in couple of weeks you talk with the whole team, and you build a different relationship with the players. Instead of just practicing, now we're building a relationship together so we can understand each other. You know, it's not about yelling to them, but making sure they understand the reason why you're yelling. Maybe they're not understanding what you mean, the way you want them to do something. Now, if we are explaining to them so they can understand, it's different. Because maybe we are yelling in some words that they do not understand. So we gotta speak their language. If we can speak their language so they can understand, now we're building a relationship which can help us go into the field and making sure and helping them to play better. Because now they understand why they're doing something. You know, and I think it's really important for communication and letting parents know what you're doing. Who are you as a coach? You know, how do you deal with players? So you don't have questions like, oh, why do you deal with that with my coach, with my son? Making sure your parents are involved in what you are doing with the players, especially young players. You know, and young players, like I give lessons to like 5 to 7 years old sometimes, and hey, sometimes it's stressful. You know, 'cause you gotta keep telling them, hey, you do this, do that, do this, do that. And sometimes you gotta make a conversation with them so they can understand why they're doing this. And it's fun though. It's fun working with kids. And I think, like I told you, communication is really important.
You know, in most countries around the world, just a couple more things, Randolph, then we'll let you go, because it's been fantastic and so thrilled that you were able to join us. You know, everywhere around the world, we have a lot of things in common. One of the most things in common, I'm sure it's the same thing in Aruba, and that is when you talk about coaches, a lot of the coaches are actually parents. You know,
Yes.
they're doing their best. I know this, folks. I'm going to mention it because I mentioned it so many times, but I'd like to mention this. To me, the volunteer coaches are the most important person when it comes to the development of kids at the grassroots level of sport. They're the biggest group of coaches worldwide. There's more volunteers than any other coach in the world when you combine them all. So they're so important. There's that fine line because they're parents, but they're also coaching. Kind of finish it off with that a little bit, how important it is educating the parents, because they're well-intended, they mean well, they've played the game, but maybe they haven't coached the game yet. So to give back to them is so important because now you're giving back to the kids also.
Yes, I think it's really important. Like you said, I mean, a lot of parents are volunteering themselves, helping other kids too. So it's important for them to get to know the game, getting to know the inside part of the game. And if we can teach our parents, they can teach someone else. And that's how we'll move on, and more people will get to know the game. And it's like I said, it's really important for our parents to get to know the game because they can help their kids too. If they don't have practice that day, their parents know, hey, I can do this at home. Maybe
Yes.
10, 20 minutes of work, they did something with their kid.
Yep.
And it makes the work for the coach easier if we can do those extra work. And that's just by giving back to the parents, making sure they know what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we do it, and helping them so they can do it at home, and making the process for the coaches easier too.
Fantastic stuff. And folks all over the world, we got to work together on this, making coaches better at the grassroots level. We got a lot of coaches that are great at the higher levels, and we got some great coaches at the younger levels too. Don't get me wrong, but it's important that we continue to develop the grassroots level of coaching worldwide. That's how the sport will continue to grow, because it keeps growing, but we got to keep it going. Hey, listen, Randolph, great way to end this. Here's the way to end this, because you mentioned this. Baseball is a great sport to be involved in, but you got to have a career after baseball.
Yes.
You went through high school, you went to college, you talked about the education. Talk about the career after baseball, because you have a choice to make now. You and I were talking off the air. You want to continue to play, but you have to decide, should I continue to play? Do I still have it in me? Or do I get going with my career? Because you have a lot going on in baseball, making baseball your career. Talk about how you're going to make that choice, because other players and kids in the future are going to have to make that choice also. How are you going to make that choice?
Well, first of all, I had to deal with myself. I had to ask myself questions, and I had to be straightforward with myself. Baseball, beside being the sport that I love, it's also my job. So I make money playing the sport. Now I have to decide what is important. I love the sport, but I have to deal with financial stuff too. Before the game, after the game, I have to buy my food. I have to pay for whatever thing you have to pay. So I have to think 10 years from now, not next year or 2 years. I have to think the long term. What is the better choice to make to make it in life after baseball, which is not easy, because all I knew is playing baseball, getting up in the morning and go to the gym, go to the field, go play ball. That's what I know. I never been in the business side of getting up and having meetings, dealing with customers. No, I don't know that, and now I always told myself that I wanted to do what I love, work something that I love. What I love is baseball, sports. Now, how can I make a living being in the sport world? And how can I do it? And first, I was like, sometimes, like I told Peter earlier, I have to give back sometimes. Foundation was just a part of it. Foundation, I don't make money doing the foundation thing, but I'm building a process, like I'm doing step by step. I believe in baby steps. Everything I do is like step by step. I don't like rushing, and starting foundation. And now we have Dream Glove Company, which is a company in the state. We are partners. And that's a company where we customize glove. Again, I'm going back into the baseball business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we customize glove, we customize batting glove, uniforms, bags, whatever. And I'm doing something that I love. like people come to me. I was like, hey, can I customize the glove? Can you help me? I was like, of course, because I'm doing something that I love and I'm being in the sport. Sometimes it's hard because not everyone can answer the question of what do I love? What do I want to be? How do I get there? And you have to make your steps. You have to work. You gotta write a lot. Write where you want to be in 10 years. And trust the process. There's gonna be failure in between it. But again, you gotta remember where you want to be, where you want to be in 10 years. It's not going to be a great road, of course not. But for me, that's how I do it. I go baby steps, getting my mentality ready for failure, make sure I'm strong. If it happens, I'm ready, but having my focus towards where I want to be. So that's really important.
Folks, that is great stuff. And that's why I love the program, the Thrive Foundation that you started in Aruba. I think you're going to really start to develop even more players for the game of baseball, but also for the game of life. What's great about baseball, it teaches you life skills. We talk about leadership, you talk about failure. You combine that with university education, your basic skills of learning how to read, write, and everything else. You got communication. Baseball teaches us so much. So I think you're on the right path, my friend. I know you're going to make a decision soon if you're going to play or not. I know you'll make the right decision, and I wish you the best of luck. I know Copabe is thrilled that you are part of Copabe as a player, as a coach, as a leader in Aruba baseball, and want to wish you the best. And thanks for being on the show, man. It was a thrill.
Hey, thank you very much, Peter. I mean, I know for sure this is not going to be the last time.
No.
We're gonna come back. And we have a lot to talk, and I'm happy. I love to give back. And any question, anything you need, just let me know, and we'll do it. So thank you for the opportunity, and we'll keep in touch. Oh, by the way, I will let you know the Tri Foundation information as well.
Yes, fantastic. We'll put that on the show notes for the Copabe Play Ball podcast. Thank you to Randolph. Fantastic show. Thank you for Copabe for allowing me to be their host for Copabe Play Ball. Hey, thanks to all the listeners in Copabe, and I know we have listeners all over the world, but thanks to everybody for listening. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. This is Copabe Play Ball, and we'll see you on next week's show, everybody. Stay safe and healthy, and God bless you all. Bye, everybody.